Hello, this is Hannah Newberry,
Joseph Kingsbury,
Katie Siegel,
and Samantha Winslet.
and this is
Jewish Family Business.
Family businesses owned and operated by Jewish individuals have long been a part of the Jewish cultural identity and have shaped their lives for generations. Specifically, Jewish individuals in Kentucky have had their identity shaped by their respective family businesses.
In the beginning, many Jewish business owners started out as peddlers. Then they settled down and started to open their own stores.
Oh, why would they settle down? Peddling doesn't seem so bad.
Actually, peddling was a very difficult line of work and presented many dangers to the peddlers who went from town to town. There was also a growing need for general stores as railroads began to connect the different areas of Kentucky. The railroads also reduced the need for peddlers because they could transport goods faster than peddlers.
That's really interesting. What kind of stores did the peddlers open?
They were usually family-owned and operated, and successive generations have kept the businesses alive or have started their own. Jewish individuals have also moved out from these traditional stores into other areas of business. Especially in Kentucky, some families found success in the alcohol industry. Others settled in other specialty areas, including jewelry or floristry. Still others worked as farmers, owned junkyards, or were involved in the manufacturing of men's and women's clothing. As Deborah Weiner states in her book From Coalfield Jews and Appalachian History,
Typically, the original founders of Jewish communities remained, with one or two members of the second generation staying on to take over the family business.
this shows the value Jewish individuals place on family and strong familial bonds. This value shines through in many aspects of the lives of the Jewish Kentuckians that we discuss in our podcast, specifically in their adult and working lives. The Shapiro family, Robin Mickler, Jeff Kaplan, and Summer Auerbach have been influenced by their childhood experiences, and it affects the way they conduct business today.
Hold up a second. Our listeners probably don't know who these people are, so let's introduce each of them before we move on.
The Shapiro family originally owned several Jew stores across the state of Kentucky, and then gradually shifted their focus over to their distillation business, Heaven Hill Brands.
Robin Mickler runs the Kentucky Native Cafe and Beer Garden, and his family owns Mickler's Florist.
Jeff Kaplan is a successful franchisee for Subway and is the current owner of the Parquet Drive-In.
Summer Auerbach is the second generation owner of Rainbow Blossom, a chain of organic grocery stores.
All right, now that our listeners know who we're talking about, let's start with the story of the Shapiro family.
The Shapiro family had 5 brothers who owned several general stores across the state of Kentucky. These stores filled a niche in their respective communities. In the book Chosen Capital, it states,
Jews, as one exemplary ethnic and religious group, adapted, took advantage of, and expanded particular niches of the American economy.
The Shapiro brothers in particular were able to take advantage of the lack of general stores and then later the lack of distilleries after Prohibition.
How did they do that?
Each brother owned one or more Jew stores in different towns. Their mother also owned her own store, which she took over after her husband passed away. Her sons eventually took that store over and opened up the other stores across Kentucky. Max Shapiro, one of the grandchildren of the original 5 brothers, describes the locations of the different stores they owned.
Sure. They range from, of course, Bardstown, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, Elizabethtown, Liberty, Winchester, Russellville, and I think there was Harrodsburg and Danville, and I think there were 1 or 2 other locations as well. At one point, I think there was a store down in Paducah or Owensboro.
These stores started with Max's grandfather. Max describes how his grandfather came to America and peddled his wares.
He immigrated to this country through New Orleans and ultimately made his way to this part of the country where he was a peddler, with a pack on his back, selling notions, threads and thimbles and, just basic household items to families that were on his route. Well, that business actually became, I guess, reasonably okay, and he then had a horse and carriage selling the same kind of things. That ultimately morphed into something a bit more extensive when he opened what you would call maybe a junior department store in a little town called New Haven, Kentucky, which is about 15 miles from Bardstown. The town is still there. It's still a very small town.
So the Shapiro family was a lot like the other peddlers who eventually settled down and opened their own stores?
That's right. The stores were mainly general stores with several departments, including cosmetic, coat, and fabric departments. The brothers managed these stores for many years, until Walmarts began to become more prevalent and they closed down their stores. After their stores closed down, they began to focus more on their distillery. Max describes how the brothers came to own the Heaven Hill distillery.
Along about 1933, a group who had this technical expert who'd been in the business before, from a plant level, in other words, from a production side of the business, came to my dad and said, we want to get into the business again. We think it has a bright future. I'll go into that in just a minute. And we'd like for you, we've got all the technical expertise, and we can build a facility, we can produce the product, we can help with understanding the nuances of different styles of mash and all the other things, recipes and all of this kind of thing. But we are short of money, so they needed a financial investor.
They entered this distillery business shortly after Prohibition ended. This distillery became more and more successful throughout the years, acquiring more and more spirits, but it has stayed family operated throughout the years. Kate Shapiro Latz grew up in the family business, and she describes how much of an impact it had on her life. She based science projects on bourbon and distilling practices, and while they were on vacation, her family would go into liquor stores to see if they carried Heaven Hill brands liquors. Kate also describes how she knew what her parents did, which differed from other kids whose parents just went to work and came home. The distillery was also a part of Kate's and her parents' lives.
That sounds like a really fun childhood.
It does sound really fun, doesn't it? Her childhood was what ultimately fostered Kate's love of the family business and convinced her to work at Heaven Hill Brands. This level of commitment to their business is what has allowed Heaven Hill Brands to become so successful.
Are they really that big of a deal? I've never heard of them.
Heaven Hill Brands has become one of the largest independent distilleries in the United States. Even with this level of success, aspects of Judaism have been incorporated into the business. One example is the stars in the Bourbon Heritage Center. Max describes how the stars came to be.
And I think it was a collaboration between my cousin, my first cousin, Harry Shapiro, who was involved in our business as well, and the builder or the contractor. And he said, I wonder if we could do something like this, very subtly. And one day I was the one that said, where did this come from? Because it was certainly not as we developed the plans for the visitor center. We said, oh, we want to have something in there that reflects the Jewish tradition of the business.
This shows how important the Jewish faith is to the Shapiro family and how closely the family works together.
Robin Mickler's family also works together very closely in their floristry shop. The floristry has been family-run for generations, just like Heaven Hill Brands. Robin also grew up immersed in the business and has very fond memories of it from his childhood, similar to Kate Shapiro Latz. Also, Robin chose to open his own cafe and beer garden while still continuing to work in the family floristry business. Robin was born in the mid-1980s to a Jewish mother and a non-denominational father. He grew up working in his parents' floristry, which was founded in 1901 and sometimes fills in as an emergency florist. In this quote, he describes part of what it was like to grow up in this environment.
My siblings and I, had kind of a unique situation because we had on Maxwell Street, a block from the University of Kentucky campus. We grew up on an acre with trees in the back, greenhouses, piles of soil. Pretty cool place to grow up as a kid.
Any kid in a mid-sized city such as Lexington would enjoy living in their own private forest in the midst of downtown. It is no doubt that these fond memories and experiences are part of why Robin continues to work at the floristry. His main role, however, is in the administration of it, where he sends out orders for materials and other behind-the-scenes work. In addition, Robin opened the Kentucky Native Cafe and Beer Garden, which is open for a season from April until October. When it was first opened, they were not prepared for the large number of people coming. Robin describes it here.
Yeah, we were busier than we expected, so we were understaffed.
Robin's time abroad in Germany during his senior year of high school was the inspiration for the Cafe and Beer Garden. It is modeled after the beer gardens that students would frequent after school there. The cafe is family-friendly and has space for kids to run around. There's even a giant pile of dirt in the back that kids climb around on. Robin described it as lots of fun, and he said he enjoyed seeing kids come after church and get dirt on their nice clothes while playing.
Wait, it's about lunchtime. What kind of food do they serve there?
Well, let's let Robin tell us.
We don't advertise it anywhere, but if you were to come to the cafe, there's nothing that you can buy that's not kosher.
Well, that doesn't really answer my question, but kosher food sounds good to me.
He also tries to serve only locally sourced items and hopes to make more local connections in the Lexington and greater Kentucky communities to increase these offerings. Growing up around a family business helped lead Robin to open his own later in life, and he continues the same local values and traditions in his business. The kosher and local food in the cafe and the fact that he continues to help out at his parents' business show the strong family value that was instilled in him at a young age.
Another restaurateur in Lexington is Jeff Kaplan. However, Jeff's restaurant is often considered a historical landmark in Lexington, having first opened in the 1950s. Both Jeff and Robin experienced difficulties when first opening or reopening their respective restaurants, and they also uphold a family-friendly atmosphere. But Jeff's upbringing has a different story. Jeff Kaplan was born in 1960 in Philadelphia, but only after 10 years of living there, his parents decided they were tired of the cold winters and made the decision to move to Miami, Florida. While he was still in junior high school, his father decided to start his own arts and crafts business, selling around the community and also shipping products to other communities farther away. Jeff and his two brothers would come home after school and help put together the boxes being shipped that day, and they would take them to their local UPS store to ship. This was Jeff's earliest experience with business, and he attributes it to where he got his entrepreneurial drive. After Jeff graduated from the University of South Florida, he was struggling to find a job that he enjoyed doing, working at a variety of retail stores in the area. He eventually found his calling after a lunch break at Subway, where he got the idea to open his own Subway storefronts. After opening a couple franchises in the Tampa area, he knew it was time for more stores, but the community there didn't have much more room for business. So his family decided to move to Lexington, where his younger brother Randy was a police officer. Jeff at one point was running 10 different Subway storefronts at once, and he was thriving in this entrepreneurial environment. As he got older, he knew he couldn't keep up with this many stores for long. He slowly started downsizing and eventually got down to about 3 storefronts before it was time to move on to the next adventure. At first, he was thinking about opening a hot dog stand with his brother Randy because of their love for Chicago-style hot dogs. One day, when exploring options for storefronts, Jeff was driving down New Circle Road and passed by the Parquet Drive-In, noticing that it was closed. So he got the idea to renovate and reopen the Parquet, making the drive-in's original recipes while also adding hot dogs to the menu like Jeff and his brother originally planned. In 2008, after many long renovations and planning, the Parquet Drive-In reopened with Randy in the kitchen and Jeff running the management. Jeff described the first week of business like this.
As a business person and personally, it was probably the hardest week that I've ever spent on this earth as a human being.
The first day the Parquet opened, it was a Monday, and usually business is fairly slow at the beginning of the week for most restaurants. However, at 10 o'clock in the morning, there was a line going out the door, and even traffic was backed up on New Circle Road because everyone was trying to turn into the parking lot for the drive-in. There was such a big turnout for the reopening because the Parquet had such a big impact on the Lexington community when it first opened in 1950 under the original owner, Joe Smiley. Everyone was looking forward to eating that special meal they remember from their childhood. Jeff understands the importance of this icon and knows in the future he and his brother won't be the owners forever.
So we just consider ourselves the current caretakers because the Parquet belongs to Lexington. Mm-hmm. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the city of Lexington and the residents here.
They do as much as they can to run the Parquet for the city of Lexington so the community continues to thrive in a positive way.
This quotation by Summer Auerbach shows how important of a role her family's business played in her childhood. Rainbow Blossom epitomized everything that was important to Summer Auerbach. The family business was a place where Summer met and interacted with all of her friends, families, customers, and employees. She describes Rainbow Blossom as the one central hub of her life and thought of Rainbow Blossom as being this really happy gathering place. Today, Rainbow Blossom plays an equally, if not more, important role in her life. Summer grew up working and playing in her family's business and continues to do so. In this situation especially, Summer Auerbach's upbringing had a direct and essential impact on her adult life. If Summer had not grown up playing and spending an abundance of her time at Rainbow Blossom, she would not see the store as such an essential part of her life. If she had not seen the store as such an essential part of her life, she would not have felt so strongly when her family business was struggling. In addition, she would likely not have stayed working at Rainbow Blossom for so long after they gained the financial stability they needed. The strong Jewish value of family and community likely contributed to Summer Auerbach's return to her family roots in her career path.
I loved being in the stores, and the stores were like my after-school, kind of daycare. I would go there after school, and things like bagging the groceries were just so exciting for me, or helping customers. I loved. I just have so many fun memories of doing that, and I'm sure I also caused all kinds of trouble. There's a customer who tells me I was about 5, and I was, peeking around the corner while he was getting bulk, and he said, "Oh, hi, Summer, you gonna help me?" And I, threw a bunch of lentils all over the floor and ran off. I loved being in the stores. I loved helping customers, and so I think I was always eager to kind of be able to be old enough or responsible enough to take on the next task. So once I was, once I could bag, that I wanted to ring on the register, and once I, could bring on the register, I wanted to learn everything I could about supplements so I could help customers and make recommendations.
Wow, it's so interesting how a person's upbringing can contribute to their adult life.
It is. The time these 4 people spent at their family businesses as children filled them with knowledge about how to run a business and how to get along with other people. They were all instilled with that entrepreneurial spirit at a young age, and that has helped them succeed in their careers as business owners and managers. They have all kept their family close throughout their life and still have to this day. A common theme throughout the narratives of the lives of our 4 Jewish business people is how important their upbringing was in molding their adult careers and business ventures. Had any of these business people had different childhood experiences, they likely would not have entered or been as passionate about their career paths.
Thanks for listening. This has been Jewish Family Business by Samantha Winslet,
Hannah Newberry,
Joseph Kingsbury,
And Katie Siegel.
Works cited: Auerbach, Summer, September 8, 2016. Interview with Carol Ely. Louis B. Nunn Center for Oral History, digital. Retrieved from ohms.uky.edu. Accessed January 24, 2017. Heaven Hill Distillery, 2017. The Story of Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill Brands. Retrieved from heavenhill.com/ourhistory. Accessed April 3, 2017. Joplin, Scott, The Entertainer, Frog Legs, Ragtime Era Favorites, Kazoom Zoom, 2008, online album. Kaplan, Jeff, March 23, 2017, interview with Katie Siegel and Joseph Kingsbury. Louis B. Nunn Center for Oral History, digital, retrieved from ohms.uky.edu. Accessed April 1, 2017. Coburn, R., 2012. Chosen Capital, The Jewish Encounter with American Capitalism. New Brunswick, New Jersey, Rutgers University Press. Mickler, Robin, March 29, 2017. Interview with Hannah Newberry and Samantha Winslet. Louis B. Nunn Center for Oral History, digital, retrieved from ohms.uky.edu. Accessed April 3, 2017. Shapira, Max, July 25, 2016. Interview with Janice W. Fernheimer. Louis B. Nunn Center for Oral History, retrieved from ohms.uky.edu. Accessed April 3, 2017. Wiener, Deborah, 2006, Coalfield Jews, and Appalachian History, Champaign, Illinois, University of Illinois Press.